All right, today I'm going to go over your CBA 2 review. You all got this little sheet, little half sheet. This is your answer maze, I guess you could say. So you would start up here. So for number one, one of these three is your answer choices. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so like whichever one, like let's say your answer is 4. Okay, so that means you would shade in 4. And now your next possible answers are -4, 18x plus 12, and 2h plus 5d is greater than or equal to 25. Does that make sense? Okay, so whatever touches your shaded box is what your possible answer choice is. Okay, so let's go to the review. And this video is going to be different than the other ones. I'm not going to give you the answers. I want you to figure it out yourself. I'm just going to give you the process on what you should be doing. Okay, so let's look at number 1. It says, given f of x equals 4 times the quantity 5 minus x, what is the value of f of 6? Okay, so remember, we're evaluating, right? So if I have f of x equals 4 times the quantity 5 minus x, and I want to know what f of 6 is, I'm just going to replace x with 6, which is what we did here, right? We replaced x with 6, so that's what I have to do on this side as well. So 4 times 5 minus 6. Now, you can evaluate it like that, or remember, we have our Desmos calculator. So you could type f parentheses x equals, I already forgot what it is, 4 times the quantity 5 minus x, 4 times the quantity 5 minus x. Alright, and then in the next row you would just type, so it would be f. Okay, and then inside this parentheses is where you would type 6, right? And then whatever the answer is, that's what you would get. So go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so number 2, an equilateral triangle has a side length of 6x minus 4. What is the perimeter of the triangle? Okay, so if you don't remember, an equilateral triangle is a triangle that has all the sides are equal, right? They're all the same length. Okay, so that means if this is 6x minus 4, then so is this, and so is this. Okay? Now, they want to know what is the perimeter of the triangle, right? If you remember, perimeter is when you add up all sides. You add all the sides together. Right? So that means we would do 6x minus 4, 6x minus 4, 6x minus 4, and I'm going to add them together, right? So if you want to do it by hand, what are we doing? What is it called? Combining like terms, right? You have your x terms and then your constant terms. You would combine those. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Another way to do it on Desmos is if you plug all of this in right here. So you would do (6x minus 4 plus 6x minus 4 plus 6x minus 4). Okay, and so this is what it looks like: 6x minus 4 plus 6x minus 4 plus 6x minus 4. What you would put in this next box are your possible answer choices. Okay, so what is a possible answer choice? Let's say 12x minus 8. So if I would put 12x minus 8, I get two different lines, right? I want it to be the exact same line. Since they should be the same equation, they should give me the exact same line, right? So that one's not right. So go ahead and do the other possible answer choices and see which one is correct. Okay, number 3, what is a solution to this equation? Okay, so remember, if you're doing it by hand, you have to distribute, and then you have to combine your like terms, right? So this would end up being 5w plus 20 plus 7 equals 6w minus 30 plus 58, right? And then you would combine your like terms. So here's the constant terms, and on this side it's also constant terms, right? And you would keep on going. You would isolate the variable, so do the opposite of addition and subtraction first, and then multiplication and division. Or if you remember, on Desmos, you can put one side in box 1, the other side in box 2, and find where they intersect. Okay, wherever they intersect, it's going to give you a point. Your answer is going to be this point, the x value, right? Whenever you put it to Desmos, also you have to replace the w with x, right? So it would look something like this. There would be 5x, or 5 parentheses x, plus 4, right? Close parentheses, plus 7. And the next one would be 3 times the quantity 2x minus 10, right? Am I wrong? And then plus 58. Alright, so this is the two lines. When you click on it, it tells you where they intersect, right? And you get the answer from there. Okay? Okay, so number 4, which inequality describes all the solutions to 2x minus 5 less than or equal to 3 times the quantity x plus 2? So again, if you're doing it by hand, you have to distribute, get rid of the parentheses, right? So it'd be 2x minus 5 is less than or equal to 3x plus 2. And then you have to get the variable on one side, and then opposite of addition and subtraction, and then multiplication and division. Or again, put it into Desmos. Now, with these, with the inequality symbols, you can put the whole thing in one box, okay? So this is how it's going to work. So if you go to Desmos, you would type the whole thing on one line. So 2x minus 5 is less than or equal to 3 times the quantity x plus 2, right? So now you have this graph. Let me zoom out so I can see. Okay? You have answer choices. When you have answer choices, you can graph them and see which ones match up, right? So a possible answer choice I see is x is greater than or equal to negative 7. X is greater than or equal to negative 7. Oh, I didn't do it on the, you're supposed to do it on the next box. X is greater than or equal to negative 7. Okay? They're not the exact same thing. Does that make sense? Right? So when they're different, it's wrong. They have to be the exact same thing. They should be equivalent to each other. They should be equal. Okay? So go ahead and figure that one out. Okay, so number 5, the table represents some points on the graph of a linear function, right? Which equation represents the same relationship? Okay, try point slope form using the last point on the table. Okay, remember, when you get a table, what are you going to do in Desmos? Add a table, right? You add a table. You have to make sure it says x1, y1, right? And remember, whenever you get a table, you have to put all of the points, not just part of it. You have to always put the whole table, okay? Once you add your table, you're going to type y1 is approximately mx1 plus b. And then it's going to end up giving you m and b, right? Now, your answer choices might not be in y equals mx plus b form. They might be in a different form, right? Sometimes they might look like this: y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. Or it also might look like ax plus by equals c, right? It's going to look like one of these three. Now remember, when you add the table and you type this, it graphs a line for you, right? It graphs the line. Okay, so that means that's this line. All you have to do is graph your answer choices and see which one is exactly that same line, right? If it's a different line, that means they're not equal to each other and it's wrong. Does that make sense? Right? So you have to graph your answer choices. See which one matches up with yours. Okay, so go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, number 6. The graph of linear function is shown on the grid. What is the slope of the graph above? Okay, remember, whenever you have a vertical or a horizontal line, those are our special cases, right? And that's when you should remember Hoy-Bucks, right? And so remember, H stands for horizontal, right? And that's the one that goes side to side. 0 stands for zero slope, or the O stands for zero slope. And then Y stands for Y equals Y1. For Bucks, V stands for vertical, right? And that's the one that goes up and down. U stands for undefined slope. And X stands for X equals X1. Okay? So Hoy-Bucks. If I were you, I'd write that on the formula chart you get right away. That's a good thing to remember. Hoy-Bucks. Okay? So you should get your answer real quick on that one. Right? Okay, number 7. What is the slope of the line that passes through the points -3, 1, and 4, 2? So, if you're doing this by hand, remember you have to label your points x1, y1, and then x2, y2, right? And then you would plug it into the formula m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Or you add a table into Desmos, right? You would put your 2 points in x1, y1, so it would be -3, 1, and 4, 2. You would type y1 is approximately mx1 plus b, and then whatever m equals, that is your slope, right? So go ahead and do that one real quick. One thing I forgot to mention is if your m is a decimal and your answer choices are in fractions like a, b, c, and d, and these are like 1/4, 1/2, 1/3, 2/3, what you should do is put these into Desmos and see what they equal decimal wise. So this one would be 0.25, this would be 0.5, this would be 0.333 repeating, this one would be 0.666 repeating, right? So then you would see which one of these would match your slope. I know these are not the right answers, but I'm giving you an example of what you would have to do, okay? Okay, number 8, I plan to go to the Astros game. Hot dogs H are $2 and drinks D are $5. The most I can spend is $25. Which inequality represents this situation? Okay, again, that's a lie. Hot dogs are not $2. Drinks are not $5 at the Astros game. It's a lie. Yes. The only time the hot dogs are $1 are on dollar hot dog night, and it's like Tuesdays. But other than that, they're like $4 or $5. The drinks are like 6, 7, and then the souvenir like 9. Okay, but anyways, the most I can spend is 25. The most. You remember what that means in equality? What is it? Equal, less than or equal to, yes. So the most I can spend is 25. And remember, I have two options, right? When you have two options, they go on the same side. So I have my two options, whether it's hot dogs and drinks, right? So remember, they go on the same side. And then hot dogs H cost $2, right? So that means the hot dogs are $2. And the drinks are $5, right? So that's how you would write that inequality. All right, number 9. I have $550 in my bank account and I spend $35 a week on lunch. Which function can be used to find the amount of money in my bank account after X weeks of buying lunches? Okay, so there's two ways you can approach it. One way is actually seeing what it says. So you start off with 550, right? Remember, whatever you start off with, that's going to be your y-intercept, right? So that means B is 550. And then in my bank account, and then I spend $35 a week on lunch, right? 35 a week is another way of saying 35 per week, right? And remember, per is our slope. So that means M would be 35, right? But since I'm spending money, that means money is going down, right? So that would be a negative 35, okay? And then that you would just plug into y equals mx plus b. Another way you could do it is actually thinking about it and seeing what the math would tell you. So like, I would make a table and be like, okay, I start off with 550, right? After 1 week, I spend $35. So that means from 550, I'm gonna take away 35, right? So then I would subtract 550 minus 35, which would be 515. Right, 515. And then now you have 2 points. Now you can put it into Desmos, right? Add a table, put these points in, type the y1 is approximately mx1 plus b. So that's if you're confused on the way they talk about it. Like, actually think about what's happening. I start off with 550. After 1 week, I take away $35 away. Now you have 2 points. So now you can write the equation of that line. Okay? Make sense? Okay, number 10. What is the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the point 2, 0 and is parallel to the line represented by y equals 4x plus 5? Okay, so remember, parallel. What are you supposed to think when you see parallel? Same slope. Parallel is the same slope. Okay, the slope of this is what? M is 4 next to the x. So the slope of my line is going to be 4 as well. And they give me a point. So this is x1, y1, right? So now I can type it in. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And that would be y minus 0 equals 4 times the quantity x minus x1, which is 2. But they want it in slope-intercept form, so that means you would have to distribute that 4. Y minus 0 is just y, right? So you could either do that or graph this. If you don't want to distribute or mess up with math, you can graph this in Desmos and then graph your answer choices and see which one matches, right? Also, if you graph this line right here, remember, your line should not ever intersect it, right? Parallel lines are where they never intersect, right? So another way you can check your answer is graph this line and then graph your line, which should be parallel to it. Okay, so I graphed your possible answer choices, and the black one, or I don't remember which one. The green one is the y equals 4x plus 5. Okay, and then the black, blue, and red are your possible answer choices. So red for sure is wrong because it's not parallel. It does intersect all of these points, right? It does intersect these lines. And then I also graphed the point 2, 0, right? 2, 0 is the x-intercept, not the y-intercept. So if you graph the line and then also the point, right? You can graph the point by just putting the parentheses, the number, comma, the number, and then parentheses, exactly how they give it to you. This is that point, 2, 0, right? So the only one that passes through that point is this blue line. Okay, so the blue one would be your answer. This is what it would look like. Okay, because it's parallel to the green one. They're never going to intersect no matter how far I zoom out. Okay? And so the black one's not correct because it doesn't pass this point right here. It has to be on this point. Not 2, 0, but not 0, 2, but 2, 0. Okay? Okay, number 11. What is the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the point 6, 19 and is perpendicular to the line represented by y equals negative 1/3 x minus 2? So remember, perpendicular, what are you supposed to think or do when you see perpendicular? Opposite reciprocal, or the MOR, right? M is the slope that they give you. O is the opposite of this slope. And then R is the reciprocal of the opposite. So the slope of this line is what? Negative 1/3. Right? So my slope is negative 1/3. The opposite of negative 1/3 is positive 1/3. Right? And then the reciprocal of 1/3 is 3/1, which is just 3. So that means my new slope is 3. And then they give me a point x1, y1, right? So you would plug this point and this slope into the y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1, right? Okay, so in Desmos, I graphed the line that they gave me, and then the point that my line has to pass through.